Technology changes, businesses change, and the way we use technology changes with them. When I first started in 2021, it was all about courses, ebooks, and selling what you knew. It's literally everywhere. And everything moved into SaaS. And SaaS is still doing very well today. And I think probably it's going to continue for that for a long, long time. But I do think we're now moving into the next phase, which is the return of the operating system. Now, operating systems aren't new. Businesses have used systems for years and years and years. But traditionally, as human operated systems, you entered the information, you completed the spreadsheet, you did the research, you made the decisions, and then you implemented the actions. So the software helped you organize, but you still did most of the work. However, now AI does change that. We're now moving towards a stage where the human carries part of the workload and the AI carries the other. And that's what I mean when I talk about AI growth systems. AI human growth systems, our systems are designed to bridge the gap between the traditional way of businesses operate and what could eventually become fully automated AI operating systems. And today, our focus is lead generation and business growth. AI can research, it can analyze information, identify opportunities, organize data, and recommend what happens actually next. The human then makes decisions based on that intelligence, and I think that distinction is incredibly important, because I don't believe the purpose of AI should simply be to reduce labour. Personally, I think that's just a massive, massive risk, because AI does make mistakes. And I get it, humans make mistakes as well. Of course we do. But humans are accountable for those decisions. AI isn't. I've spent thousands of hours building my own business, thousands of hours, and it's probably one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. So would I hand my entire business over to AI tomorrow? No chance. But would I allow AI to write code, work through spreadsheets, organize information, and deal with mundane jobs that previously took me absolutely hours? Absolutely. Damn right I would. And I've used AI ever since the first day it came out. So imagine someone who hasn't. That's why I don't think businesses should suddenly jump from doing everything manually into something completely AI automated. It'd be like jumping off a cliff without a parachute. Instead, I think adoption will be progressive. Look at mobile phones, for example. When smartphones first appeared, no one said, here you go, put your bank details into this phone, store your identity on it, pay for everything on it, and trust it with half your life. No, that developed over time. People learned, technology improved, and then the trust grew. And if I had to describe where we are today with AI, I'd probably say we're around an iPhone 6. So could someone have bought their first ever smartphone at iPhone 6 and learned how to use it? Of course they could. And could someone wait until the equivalent of the iPhone 16 Plus came out and use it? Absolutely. But suddenly there is far more to understand, and it takes long to become familiar with it, and probably longer to trust it. And that is why I keep banging the same drum. Start now, even if it's for an hour a day. You don't need to do some enormous crash course and try to understand everything in a weekend. I actually think it's better doing it little by little. Use it, experiment with it, understand where it actually helps you. Start with things like spreadsheets, start with administration, start with jobs that used to take hours and aren't going to destroy your company if something actually goes wrong, and build from there. And this is where an AI growth system becomes very different from simply giving someone an AI tool. If you give someone an AI tool, they still have work to work out what to ask it, what to do with it, with that answer, and how it actually fits their business. But inside an AI growth system, AI already has that a job. It has a process and it has a purpose. So even if you're not, an advanced AI user, you can still operate that system. In fact, in some ways, you don't really do that much. You just guide AI and AI guides you. It does the research, it does all the heavy lifting, then gives you the intelligence and you just make the decision. And for me, that's a smarter way to scale. Not removing humans, giving humans greater capacity, giving them better information, removing hours of repetitive work, which is going to allow people to spend more time doing parts of the business that humans are still very, very good at, which is human relationships. Talking, understanding people, making judgments, building relationships. Every business will go fully automated from that. Some eventually won't need as much AI as others. I think the important thing is to start understanding how it works. Learn progressively, use it progressively, trust it progressively. Because AI systems aren't simply about replacing what humans do. They're about building the bridge between how businesses operate today and whatever comes next.